Can I get a approval of the agenda?
Move to approve the agenda as written.
Second.
Got a motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes 5-0. We have a special presentation.
Nope.
Nope. Oh, okay. That's on there. How about, we've got some public comments.
Items that aren't on the agenda.
Are these items that aren't on the agenda? Yeah, special comments about items that aren't on the agenda. I've got Ben Malik. Mayor Ben Malik.
Hey, good evening, everybody, and Happy New Year, Commissioners, City Manager, City Attorney, City Clerk. Just a couple things. I actually was able to get out of Winter Park a little early. We are in election year, and given that, I think it's important for candidates to realize that we are a pretty diverse city, and there is, every election, there's going to be a percentage of people that will not agree with you. And if you think everybody's going to agree with you, you're not doing your job. Some could be as high as almost 47%. You just have to try and do the best decisions that you can for the city. In terms of where we are, I hope as we come closer to budget cycle, we realize that cities don't make anything. The only way we're going to be able to pay our bills is you either raise taxes, which nobody wants to do, you expand the tax base, which I've been trying to do, or you reduce services. That's it. We're not the federal government, can't deficit spend. You got to balance the budget. It's a giant mystery, but you got to balance the budget. So that being said, I don't know if you've noticed, but if you go out west, over the bridge, I know it's traumatic for a lot of us, but if you do go over there, there's all kinds of multifamily units that have popped up in Melbourne to accommodate all the growth that's going on. I don't know if you saw the notice, but U-Haul put out a statistic that our metro area was the highest number of rentals for U-Haul in the entire country, Space Coast. The entire country, right here. So growth is here. You have to manage it, which is why when we were on the commission, we carved out those 4 redevelopment areas. We worked with Dover Coal. We worked with Zykovich. We laid out those 4 areas. The Marisol Apartments in Melbourne by Vieira, that just sold for $50 million. We're going to get our first new multifamily complex on 520. It's about 240 units. Based on property appraiser values of similar properties, that should be about $35 million. That's almost $240,000 to the city of Cocoa Beach, non-homestead every year. Now, almost all of you voted for that. And I'm just dumbfounded why somebody that can be fiscally conservative can't understand the math behind wanting a $240,000 addition to our tax rolls. I, as a taxpayer, don't understand that. When I left in 2022, our values went from 1.1 over the last 3 years to 2.6 million. So pretty good run up. We have very limited opportunity to get funds. So when there are few projects that are coming online, we really need to be cautious and support those that will fit our needs, especially our growing. You've got a North End fire station that has approached shelf life. It's not going to get any better, just like our sewer lines. It's not going to get better with age. There's got to be a line item to address that. Mayor, I appreciate your wanting to put some money aside, but there wasn't any money to put aside because we didn't have any. That's the problem. So you got to figure out ways to generate additional revenue. So again, projects that bring in $250,000 a year in non-homestead property, that's a pretty good start. And just lastly, I hope you will support the promotion of Deputy Chief. He's got the union support, Deputy Chief West. He's definitely earned it. I think he would do a heck of a job. And thanks for all you do for the city of Cocoa Beach. Appreciate your letting me speak. Thanks.
Thank you, Mayor. Got another former mayor, Janice Scott.
Good evening, Mayor, Commissioners, City Attorney, City Manager. I already gave you greetings for the new year at the last commission meeting, so I'm going to move into what I watched this afternoon. United States government just passed another continuing resolution to fund the government, so you don't need to worry about whether you get paid next week or get your Social Security, which isn't really affected by all that. But it's very disappointing, and I'm mentioning it here because I don't think a lot of people realize. In the countries that are the majority of the migration coming here, if you don't work, you don't eat. Your family gets fed up with you, they kick you out, and they all know it. You either work, you wash a car with a dirty bucket of water and a rag or something. You do something to get money or to support yourself. So I know a little bit about the Darien border, and it's an extremely dangerous part of the world. A lot of people are dying there, and the most disappointing thing for me is that the billboard for they have 3 places there that show where the migrants are housed once they finally crawl across the border into Panama. It says, funded by the UN and the United States government. That's pretty disappointing. When they all talk in the United States about, oh, who's paying for this? I see it all the time, people wondering, who's paying for it? Who's behind all of this? Air-conditioned buses from the border to Costa Rica, up to Guatemala, every country, they just keep passing them along on the fanciest air-conditioned buses that you've ever laid eyes on, probably better than the ones we have here in the Greyhound. So anyway, I just thought I'd try and get you to look at that a little bit different way and contact your congressman about that. Also, I wanted to bring up Florida Senate Bill 102 with affordable housing. I've watched the county commission. Nobody has decided what is affordable. What is the, $40,000 income, $75,000 income, whatever. What is affordable? I think that needs to be cleared up because a lot of the contractors, I believe they're getting like a 75% tax exemption in these projects, or so it's greatly rumored. And I think that some of them that had permits to do other things, perhaps even on 520, that they're going to apply for affordable housing units in there, a certain percentage, and then they get the exemption. Thank you.
Thank you, Janice. See, Attorney, didn't we file something for the city about we didn't have any stuff available for affordable housing or something like that?
Yes, there was a state statute from last year that said that every city needed to look among their surplus properties to see if any of the surplus properties would be appropriate for affordable housing. And the city of Cocoa Beach had none.
Okay, thank you very much. Any more public comment about items that are not on the agenda? All right. Staff reports.
Okay, I just have one thing this evening. I wanted to bring to the commission's attention that the 4th of July is right around the corner. We budgeted no money this year for fireworks. We reached out to the company that did it last year. It would be the same amount of money. It's $20,000, and it's the commission's call. And as I said, we did not budget for any fireworks this year.
Wayne, did you by chance look into that that thing I told you about? Maybe like a drone firework thing.
We did, and that's actually significantly more than just the
was more
fireworks that
expensive.
we
Okay.
did, yeah.
Right.
At this point in time, I'm not, I'm sure as time goes by that will be cheaper and probably the alternative to conventional fireworks, but at this time, no.
Okay, thank
So,
you.
I mean, I'll do whatever you guys want, we can do it. There's a lot of other fireworks in the area at that time. And I don't think we have the 4th of July slot it would be
never
the
do.
3rd, I believe.
We never do. Coco always gets the 4th of July spot.
So, you know, just, if you want me to bring it back as an item of discussion, you know, whatever you guys want. But I'm just bringing it to everyone's attention.
Thank you.
Put it on the agenda so the public will be aware.
That's all I have.
Thank you. City Attorney, reports? No?
Nothing tonight, thank you.
All right, moving along. City Commission, any reports or announcements? All right.
I've got one.
Oh, okay.
So last meeting, I suggested we, as a commission, give consensus to give the key to the city to Lori Kalachi, 36 years. She worked for the city, was our city clerk for 30 years, and Wayne made up this key to the city. And Lori couldn't be here tonight, but I'd like to get a picture with the commission. Karen, and we'll leave a gap and you can Photoshop Lori in behind the plaque.
Are you serious?
That's what the chair's for.
I'll figure out how to put her in there for y'all.
We're leaving a little gap so you can Photoshop Lori in.
Alright. There we go. Thank you.
They're pretty good with a broken wrist.
Obviously, a lot of you guys know that Lori was absolutely amazing, and she will be missed.
And Karen's going to deliver this personally. Thank you, Wayne, for putting it together.
Actually, Karen was instrumental in that too, so.
All right.
That's all I had.
All right, consent agenda.
Okay, this is the consent agenda. Item 1, approve the October 5th, 2023 and January 4, 2024 commission meeting minutes. Representative, City Clerk Department, recommendation approved. Item 2, confirm the following meeting, March 5, 2024, 6 to 7:30 p.m., Town Hall meeting. Item 3, approve $86,562 in ARPA funds for the repair of Fire Station 51 exterior facade. Representative Patricia Draycott, Chief Financial Officer, recommendation approved.
Move to approve the consent agenda as read.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
All opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Unfinished business.
Okay, unfinished business. Item 1, consider the renaming of the cultural green space in the current new City Hall project. Representative Wayne Caragino, Acting City Manager, recommendation discuss and direct staff.
I like the Centennial Square. Where's Tim?
Yeah, I like that. I thought you had being it's going to be done on the centennial mark, I think something with centennial would be pretty cool.
I concur. I'm talking with Wayne about this. It seemed like there may be confusion between bicentennial on 520 and
Yeah, so we
downtown, but I
wouldn't-
like the idea of the 100th anniversary. It's pretty significant.
Square maybe, like you
Yeah, somehow
said,
to
or
delineate.
plaza, or, because park could be, like you said, misconstrued.
Centennial Town Center, well, we're not a town, but yes, Centennial.
Something.
I like Centennial.
Yeah, I like that too.
I like Centennial.
I mean, we could add, I mean, it's obvious, but we could add Cocoa Beach Centennial Square to it. but-
That sounds cool.
What do you think, Josh?
In terms of any CRA activities, do we have to does that have to go to the CRA?
No.
Before it goes to us?
It's still going to be, fit all the criteria of a cultural green space, it's just.
Oh, no, just for name, I don't know what the
No.
rules are with the CRA.
No, it should,
Well,
we
we are
already
the
talked with
CRA.
Becky about that, and she
It
assured us.
shouldn't be a problem. I mean, I will check and make sure, but I don't think it's a problem. And also, if we're going to officially rename it, you should direct me to come back with a resolution.
Okay.
Yeah, I have no problem with that name.
So what do you guys think? Centennial Square?
I like Cocoa Beach Centennial Square.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'll second that motion.
How about some public comment? Yep, come on up.
Rick Anderson, 1800 Minute Bend Causeway. How about Cocoa Beach Centennial Common?
Thank you. Anyone else? All right. So I think, what do you guys think? Cocoa Beach Centennial Square then? Are we all in consensus?
No, we can vote on it. We got to vote on it.
I think we have
I think
to,
she's.
I think she was saying that she was going to bring it to
Brought
us.
back.
Bring that as a
Bring it back as a
vote.
resolution,
We
so
vote
it's
to direct
official.
you to bring it back as a resolution.
Yeah, I'd go ahead and do that.
I thought we just had to do a head nod, right?
Carolyn did that and I seconded it.
Okay. Motion and a second to
And
have
Karen's
Becky
squinting
write it
at
up
us.
as
She's got
Cocoa
it.
Beach Centennial Square.
Yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion passes 5-0. That was easy.
We did get 5 sometimes.
City Attorney, next.
Okay, item 2, provide direction on how to proceed with the recruitment of a new city manager. Representative, City Commission, recommendation, provide directions.
I like the option where we just let the decision ride for 6 months. About 5 months from now, we check with Wayne and check his blood pressure and give him a full physical and mental check and see if he still wants to stay on. If not,
I might not have a blood pressure then.
if not, I didn't mean all those extra
You can't lose any more hair.
all the other oblivious words there. No, just let it ride for, bring it back in about 5 months, and check with Wayne, and then we'll decide how to move forward at that point.
I like that. I would add, I think we can do 3 and 1 in parallel. If the city if one would take 6 to 9 months to go through the process, then executing 3 in parallel with 1 would allow us to, if we get to the end of the 6 months and say, hey, this is good, Wayne says this is good, and we want to go in that direction, we just cease with.
It's a 2-month process. It's a 2-month process.
Number 1.
To go out
Yeah.
to the free world and pick somebody is a 2-month process.
So if we did
If
5
we
months.
if we want to say, we give him 6 months, we'll ask him, instead of 5 months, we'll ask him in 4 months. And that would still give us 2 months to pick
So
somebody.
in talking with the city, I was told it would probably be more at 6 to 9 months.
No, not in the past. Not in my experience in picking city managers.
really-
Where's
it really
Ben? Is he
shouldn't.
still here? Oh,
He's still here.
it never took us that long, did it, Ben?
So we think it's probably going to take 2 months?
It's true, because we did this, the last time we did this, it was, we had our list in September, and then they started looking in September, I think, and then they gave us like the list in November, and we did
Was
the
that with
interviews
the
in
full
November.
service
Yeah,
or with
they
us
had the
doing it
interviews.
ourselves?
And then by December, we had one picked, I think that's
Yeah,
how,
they only give them,
That was-
once they put it on the street, they only give them about 2 weeks to respond.
I say we do the 5 months, and then at that point, he'll have a pretty good idea how he feels about it, and we'll have a pretty good idea about how he feels, and it still gives us plenty of time to do what we got to do. I mean,
Okay.
But your point is, don't
'Cause-
start the clock on the search if at his checkup, he says.
yeah,
it's
because
not
if
for me.
he hasn't made a decision.
Well, we
haven't-
could decide then, what if all of a sudden he falls apart and's not doing a good job?
Well, then, at that point, we're right back here, and we say, hey, it's not working, Wayne, we're going to start the process now.
Okay.
And if it's 2 months, then I think that my recommendation is different. Yeah.
So, somebody needs to make a motion.
Well,
Make a motion
I just
to-
want to confirm, the city believes that you could execute option 1 in 2 months and have qualified panelists? Okay,
I think that can be done.
okay.
So would it be appropriate to defer this action item for 2 months from now and revisit it?
No,
Or is that
no,
decision-
no,
We're gonna
we're
vote. to
gonna
put-
agree to go with option 3, which is to give Wayne 6 months running room. But I'd like to, my motion would be to revisit it in 5 months to get Wayne's feel for whether he wants to stay on, so that we could start the process then. We wouldn't be forcing him to stay on if he decides he doesn't want to do it. So I'm looking for a second.
Second.
You got that, Karen?
All right.
Public comment.
We got public comment. Anybody want to say anything about Wayne taking over for now? All right. So we got a motion and a second. All in favor to keep Wayne on for 6 months, and at that time, in 5 months, we'll check up on him and see if he wants to continue, and
We want him
and if
to,
we want him in there and all that stuff that he said. All in favor? Aye.
aye.
All opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Thank you, Wayne.
Okay. Okay, item 3, approve the appointment of Deputy Chief Wes Mullins to interim police chief, Representative Wayne Caragino, acting city manager, recommendation approved.
I'd like to make a clarification, just according to city policy. We don't choose the police chief as a commission. Per our policy, the city manager chooses. It's his responsibility to choose. And it's our responsibility to approve or disapprove. So we're not sitting up here to pick somebody. We're just here to either approve or disapprove.
Are we discussing now, or are we going to do?
We can discuss now, yeah.
Okay. I actually wanted to bring up the discussion or the possibility, or talk about the possibility of bringing back our current chief that's sitting, we're paying him as chief. The situation from when he left has changed. I think he's very capable. I think he deserves to come back. And I wanted to discuss the possibility and see what you guys all thought or comments on that before we keep going down this route.
Okay, thank you, Caroline.
So I'd go back to the policy that that question would be deferred to Wayne as to whether he wanted to entertain that at this time.
At this time, I presented Wes for your consideration. So.
Thank you. So I think at this time, the option is not on the table.
Is that what we're saying, or?
You can make a motion to reject this.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah, you can disapprove, Wes. And if there's 3 votes to disapprove, then it's back to Wayne to pick
Okay.
somebody.
Okay.
That's the way our policy reads. I would say that,
And the disapproval would be for the interim
Right.
position, just this.
Just that.
okay. So,
If this motion
Doesn't dictate
fails, then you
anything
can
else.
bring up another motion to. I
no,
guess-
no, then it goes
Yeah,
back
it's
to Wayne to
completely
pick
Wayne.
an alternate.
Okay.
Okay, so my motion would be to approve the appointment of Deputy Chief Wes Mullins to the interim police chief, but I would like to add the caveat that when we get to like the July timeframe, when the current police chief's going to go off the books in August, that we go through a full search of qualified individuals and see if there's anybody out there that might serve the city better. And Wes is 100%, qualified to apply. And I think as my duty as a city commissioner would be to ask for that. And I would add that as part of my motion. I'd be looking for a second.
Can we add that as just per the same conversation we had in terms of the city manager's authority to select somebody? Can we,
He's still going to select, he either has to keep Wes or put it out for search.
yeah, he would have to
Right.
put
I'm
Wes
just
in
adding
full
that
time in
my
that.
my desirement is to have that search performed before we make a final decision.
I'm
Which will
gonna-
come back to us for approval.
I'm gonna put it out there,
But I didn't get a second.
I just want to make sure that seconding that would be seconding something that we can stipulate.
Okay, well, the section 2.5, police department says there shall be a police department which shall consist of a chief of police and such deputies as may be determined by the city commission. And the city commission shall create such lesser offices within the department as it may see fit. The chief of police shall be head of the police department. He shall be appointed and removed by the city manager, subject to the approval of the city commission. I think,
The full competition.
yeah, I think that you could make a request that the city manager do that.
That's what I say, it's my
That-
It's an
desirement.
expression.
And I'd like it to be part of the public record.
Okay, well, it is part, the city commission doesn't have the authority under this to force him to do that, but he works for you, just like I work for you. So if you ask him to do something, he's likely to
I'm
do
just
it.
saying that's my desirement.
Yes,
I'm not saying thou shalt.
so I'm
then
gonna
that's
just
okay.
talk right here real quick.
If I didn't get a second, then we don't
look,
talk about that anymore.
I'm just gonna say I'm gonna agree with you. I don't know if, I don't think I'm really not really technically supposed to second, but,
You can hand the gavel over and you can second it.
what? Hand him the yellow.
No, hand it to the vice mayor.
Vice Mayor.
Unless,
If you want to say something without a motion, I think is what you're saying, right?
I
You want to have discussion
I'll
prior to the
second it.
motion?
okay, we got a motion and a second. All right, so let's have a discussion about it. How about that?
So just for clarification, you seconded his desirement?
Well, he
or-
seconded it.
No, he-
Okay, got it.
And then we go for discussion, right?
So-
Public discussion and.
I think he's spot on. Let's let Wes, he's been doing it, he's done it before. Let's let Wes do it for the 6 months. I mean, it's just interim anyways, so you really don't have anything to lose.
Same job he's doing now.
Same thing he's
deputy.
doing now. Obviously, the police force is a big majority of them is for him. I don't know if you guys have done your due diligence here, but I tried to reach out to every single one of the police officers and get their opinion. And I'll say that at least 16 have gotten back to me, all in favor of Wes. And I think he deserves a shot. Now, I'll say in 6 months, I think before we do put somebody in as permanent, it's only fair to go through the proper procedures and put it out for a bid, but why not have him be a part of that?
Okay, I wanted to point out that what you're talking about is already in the agenda memo.
Yeah.
That the acting city manager, he asked for the approval of, his term shall begin immediately upon approval of the commission and run until July 31, 2024. So he's already,
So, yeah, I'm just talking to you guys as far as,
But my desirement is that, like, earlier than July 31st, so we're not forced to make a decision on July 31st, that if Wayne chooses to go out and do a solicitation for a police chief and see what other qualified individuals are interested, Wes fully capable
of course, it's at his discretion. I mean, he's he can do what he wants and he could put it out for bid. As Wes understands, this is an interim, and he's going to have the same rights as any other person that wants to try to take this position permanently. But in the meantime, he's fully capable. He's got a lot of support, and I feel like we owe it to him. And I don't know how you guys feel about it, but if you have any concerns.
I already stated my position.
So the motion is advance this July 31st assessment date earlier than that?
No, he would still stay on in this position till July.
Right.
But if this, my desirement, not direction.
That's the motion, right?
Was that the city manager make a decision earlier
Prior
than
to the
that,
31st.
so that he can do a solicitation, should
So
he
I
choose.
have to do an evaluation of him.
Yeah.
And based on my evaluation, then I have to either go out on the street or bring him back up to you guys, but it's the city manager's
Discretion.
choice to bring to you.
Absolutely.
And that's the way actually I wrote this up. At the end of 6 months, I'll do an evaluation and bring it back to you.
Got it.
We'll know in the meantime whether or not he's doing a good job. I don't see why he wouldn't, but
I mean, he's been doing this for a year effectively.
he's been doing it, and
He's been doing it. I think we shouldn't hire another police chief until we have the whole application process and he can apply and just but I don't see why we need to change what's going on. If we want a police chief, we have one. So
If you
bring him back.
speak
But
to
he's
the
doing it now
majority,
until
though.
we apply, then we don't need to change anything. That's my opinion.
have you talked to all the officers?
I've talked to plenty of them, so
I mean,
yes.
the majority that I've talked to want some kind of stability. They want something where they could say, this is our leader, we feel comfortable with this person. With it before, we have a majority that don't feel comfortable with the other option.
I understand that, but there's others who don't feel that way. So,
I understand, and
I'm not gonna try to convince you. This
No, I
is
get
just what
it.
I think.
Yeah.
And I mean, you guys can think the way you want. That's the way I think. So,
honestly,
this is just what I believe.
I get it.
And this is
I
what
love
found.
Scott. Honestly, as a person, I love Scott. He's funny. He's a guy's guy. I'm a guy's guy, and all that. But that's not what's on the table right now. Public comment. I got a couple here. Tyler Payne.
Sorry, I have bad handwriting. It's Taylor.
Oh, Taylor.
Listen, my neighbor's been calling me Tyler for 6 years, and I just don't worry about it. Taylor Payne, I'm a sergeant with the Cocoa Beach Police Department. Just have a small prepared statement to the commission, city manager, and the citizens who've attended here today. Thank you for allowing me to speak. Approximately 7.5 years ago, I applied to join the Cocoa Beach Police Department. Deputy Chief Mullins, who was a major at the time, conducted my interview. The elation I felt after the interview paled in comparison to the joy of securing the job. In my early tenure, I allowed the opinions of former colleagues to shape my perception of him. However, as I advanced into a leadership role myself, I realized that similar judgments were cast upon me by others as well. Over the years, I've observed Deputy Chief Mullins make tough calls, hold contrasting opinions, and take actions that some may not have agreed with. But I've also witnessed his genuine willingness to acknowledge mistakes and seek our collective input. He consistently visits the line-level police officers, meeting not just with the day shift, but also the night shift, arriving early and staying late, voluntarily extending his time to ensure those often overlooked are included and their opinions taken into account. It was through these experiences that I grasped the essence of leadership. Making difficult decisions is an intrinsic part of it. Sometimes the correct choice isn't immediately evident to everyone. It is because of these qualities and experiences that I wholeheartedly endorse Deputy Chief Mullins for the position of Chief of Police. His leadership will provide us with stability and a clear direction, enabling our agency to move forward with confidence. So I would like to just end with a quote by U.S. Army General Douglas MacArthur. "A true leader has the confidence to stand alone, the courage to make tough decisions, and the compassion to listen to the needs of others." Thank you.
Thank you. Bill Staley. Bill Staley.
Good evening. I'm a field training officer for Cocoa Beach Police Department, and I'm here tonight to profess my full support for Wes Mullins to be named interim chief of police. As I train our new officers every day or implement advanced training to our team, many of them that are also here in support, I do this with many of the values instilled in me by Wes Mullins. Values that include community first and earning the trust of these dear people who expect us to do the job with the utmost professionalism, regardless of the threat to our own personal safety. Whether you're a road patrol, whether you're in criminal investigations division or some other special unit, he and his administrative staff expect us to fight crime the way we would do it as if the victim was our own grandmother. Cocoa Beach is kind of our Camelot. Let's be honest, it's paradise. We love this. And we wonder why Wes Mullins, why do folks like me think he's the best? Because we don't have a Merlin back here in our Camelot with a crystal ball telling us what the future looks like, right? But if my investigation training has taught me anything, that is that you can predict a person's behavior of what they will be in the future by looking at what they have been in the past. And I believe that the totality of Mullins' record speaks for itself. And with respect to some of the discussion on the commission tonight, I do not believe we're going backwards with former employees. I believe we must go forward. I believe that the women in our community deserve that. I believe that that is what our officers that fight every day in the community deserve that. Mullins was appointed by a previous city manager to take over the leadership of the chief's duties without the actual title during a very tumultuous transition of leadership. And it was Mullins who led the way, fostering morale amongst the rank and file that I've never seen better in my time with the department. Overnight, he implemented new policies that allow us to serve the community with the most progressive and innovative tactics. He is the most visible administrator in our agency, on scene and around the office, continually reminding each of his officers of the oath we took when we were sworn in to serve this great city. I believe it's the same oath that Chief Mullins will take tonight, and my prayer that he'll take on August 1st when the interim tag should be removed. I was actually first trained by Mullins in the academy, something I'll forever be grateful for, and I thank you for that, boss. What you instilled with me, passions that had been dormant since I was 6 years of age, to fight crime and to be an investigator. During the academy, I was recruited by many other agencies. One of the most prestigious agencies in our county called me and let me know that my employee contract was available. Cocoa Beach did not have an opening at the time, but right before I was to put pen to paper, an opening came. And I'm so thankful because after learning from this man, seeing his values and his passion for the job, I turned down all other offers, including more money, to serve here in the city of Cocoa Beach. I did not hesitate to jump at that chance, to work under his leadership and to continue to learn from him, and I've never once regretted my decision. Indulge me for a moment to brag on other officers working under him that were also taught in the academy. This list includes a decorated canine officer, officers who are now supervisors who have come up the ranks and are leading people and teaching like myself, people who were leading under the academy and are now leading drug interdictions in our agency, including felony asset forfeitures. They also include mural officers who who are closing cases and learning how to be proactive to close them in a timely manner. We are a great community, but we have highways that come in and out from all over our state. And he's teaching us how to safely combat the crime that comes to us. I believe that even this past year, over 150 DUI arrests, and this last year alone, and folks like me who are a small group of officers leading our agency in felony arrests, all of this under the championship and the encouragement of Wes Mullins. But possibly, and listen to this as I get ready to close, possibly the most important thing many of us are actively involved in as we speak, decisions being made even tonight and tomorrow to continually talk and meet on how to help people in mental crisis for a variety of reasons, especially since COVID broke the world in 2020. And though we are not swayed by woke political ideologies, we are learning new ways to implement strategies for people armed with weapons other than a firearm to assist them in their most volatile mental health crisis. Chief Mullins understands you call us to help your loved one, hoping that they won't be injured in the process. And he is listening and he is passing these values on to his trainers, and he expects his trainers to pass these values on to his team. In fact, I'm so excited to be part of this training because I believe it could be our finest hour as human beings. Mullins does these things not because he has to, but because after all, if you've known him for any stretch of time, he is Cocoa Beach. So my citizens, my police family, Mr. Mayor, the City Commission, I believe the future is bright, and in my humble opinion, the future is Chief James Wesley Mullins. Thank you. I'm Bill Stanley.
You want to speak, Janice? And let me just remind, 3 minutes.
Okay, Janice Scott, Cocoa Beach. I know that Chief Mullins is a fine person. However, I rise to speak to the process. We are a strong city manager, weak council form of government. The manager has brought you a recommendation. Now, I'm fully aware, as you are, that the agenda comes out on Friday. You have almost a week to meet with the manager to go over anything he's put on the agenda. And I really do feel that the motion was to approve, and you should move on with that without a whole lot of other interjections about how you'll go down the road another day and everything. The two key employees, I don't think technically the manager needs to bring any of those recommendations. He has the right to run his staff, to hire and fire whoever is on his staff. And I think it's just been a matter of courtesy here over the years that the manager bring the chief of police and the chief of the fire department for your approval. Thank you.
I think I'm going to disagree with that, city attorney.
Yes, it's in the code.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Malik.
It's approval, not chief.
Good evening. Sorry, what a strange new year. I find myself in agreement with Mayor Scott. Yeah, let remind you guys, the charter. We are a weak city commission, strong city manager form of government. That's your leader. You guys set policy, that's it. You can't keep going into the day-to-day minutia. That's not your purview. And next you guys will want to figure out what color to paint the buildings. That's not what you guys are elected to do. You guys are elected to set policy on a holistic level. You have a CEO, let him run the ship. And frankly, if you want feedback, you need to talk to the public safety officers. The best interaction we have right now between our fire and police department is under Wes Mullins' tutelage. So That's all you need to do. Talk to the people that are in there day in, day out. Thank you.
Rick Anderson, 1800 Minuteman Causeway, and I'm going to just build on what the last two have said. And I just think that this should just be a clean vote. It's a clean resolution through July 31st, nothing else. And I think that adding all this clutter about recommending something, I honestly think it's disrespectful to Chief Mullins.
You get next, Tim.
John Lose, 444 Dempsey Drive. I think the election of Wes Mullins being promoted to the interim police chief is an excellent selection. It's an excellent choice. Wes has been doing the job now and prior times as well. He's earned the chance to be in that position. He has the support of the majority of the department. He has very high moral standards. If you've ever talked with Wes closely, he's a very high standard person. He deserves the opportunity, and I think at the end of the trial period, I don't think he'll disappoint, but you guys have a chance to revisit it anyway, but I don't think he'll disappoint. Wes is an outstanding candidate. Thank you.
Thank you.
Tim Tumulty, 59-year-old resident of Cocoa Beach. It's very clear, and has been, that Chief Mullins has been doing a fantastic job with morale and basically everything with the police department, as well as communicating with the fire department. That has been a problem in the past, and that's been rectified. It's been the process of healing for sure. And I also have to agree with, unfortunately, with former Mayor Ben Malik.
He left.
He was also in agreement with former Mayor Janice Scott that this isn't your decision. You only hire and fire the city attorney and the city manager. That's the only employee of the city that you have control over. Period. It is the city manager's responsibility for all of the other employees of the city, including the police chief, the fire chief. Your phone's blowing up there, Commissioner.
And I
Ramos,
got problems at work.
So this is all a moot point. You're all really confusing the whole situation here. Your job is to either accept Wes as the city police chief or not. And then it will come back to you. If you do not, then the city manager will bring you another police chief to accept or not accept. It is not in your purview to pick who he chooses as the police chief.
You said that.
I didn't say you didn't.
Wow,
It
agreement.
is just a simple, another like crazy thing
an
happening here
epiphany.
today, right? I don't know what, maybe the Cubs will win the World Series next year. Oh, wait a minute, that already happened. Anyhow, it's very simple. You guys have a vote, it's on the agenda. Make the vote. It looks pretty clear the direction you're gonna go.
That's it for public comment?
We've got Cooper. We've got two more.
Good evening, Commissioners, Mayor, City Manager. My name is Detective Sergeant Thomas Cooper with the Cocoa Beach Police Department. I've been employed over 22 years at this place. This place is my home. My daughter was sick when I first started here, and it was the city that took care of me and her as we were fighting this illness that she had. I wish that some of the commissioners could have seen the investigation follow through on our former chief. It is absolutely disgusting what has happened to our female employees and some of our staff members because of the way they look or because of their sex. And it's not something that is allowed anywhere else, and it's definitely not something that is allowed in this place. We are the people that are supposed to uphold the law, and we expect to be covered by you guys when we have problems like this. but that is now come and gone. I can tell you, we had a union vote when it came time for a contract, and 90% of the people that showed up supported that man right there. No one else. Deputy Chief Wes Mullins should be the choice. We all stand by him. I want you guys to stand by him too. Thank you.
I'm probably not going to be as eloquent as Sergeant Cooper. Sergeant Ron Betts. I haven't worked here as long as Sergeant Cooper. I've been here for about 18 years. You all have heard that he is the clear choice, and I agree. So I'm not here to go too much detail. One of the things I did hear while attending this meeting, and I usually keep myself out of city politics, I'm your employee. I go where you tell me to go. I do what you tell me to do. I overheard one of the commissioners saying that we need to bring back our old chief. You have no idea what you would do to this department if you brought him back. I like him as a person, but after hearing what has happened and what he has done, it's horrible. You would lose most of your employees. You wouldn't have a police force anymore here. You guys would be fending for yourselves. You'd be relying on the sheriff's office. You would lose all of them. We have very few female employees here. Sergeant Hughes over there, she does our recruitment. She does an excellent job with our training. You would lose her. You would lose Rachel. You would lose Brandy. You would lose employees. The only person that has respect for us and has helped me through the years has been Wes. I've been through many chiefs. Most of them avoid the officers. They stick to just dealing with the commission and the city manager, but not Wes. He has come and talked to us and made sure we were doing okay. I've been through my trials and tribulations, and he has been there to help me out. You need to consider that before you make a decision. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Does that conclude public comment? All right. I just want to throw my 2 cents in for Wes. I've known Wes a while. Mostly once I first got on the commission here, so about 1.5 years or so, and before that I knew Scott, and I liked Scott, like I said, and I wasn't sure about Wes because of all the stuff that was going on, and through the years, or the year I should say, I've gotten to know him, and I could say he's a really nice guy, and he's got a lot of support with you guys, and to me that speaks volumes because I want to make sure that we do right by you guys. And to me, so you guys know, I'm behind you, Wes, so thank you. We got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Do we have discussion?
Oh, you guys want more discussion?
I wanted to follow on. So in appreciating the comments we've got, that we're here to approve or provide consent, not to select someone, right? And that is the job of the city manager. In considering that, wanted to understand what are the qualifications for a chief of police, and does the proposed candidate meet those qualifications, right? And so reaching out to some folks, what I was able to collect was that you need someone who is an experienced administrator. You need someone who has preferred at least master's degree, if not exceeding that, has command staff experience, and in our particular police force, has experience working with collective bargaining unit and basically a labor union, right? That's going to be critical, and that kind of experience, if you don't have it, even coming from a larger agency, is going to hamstring the ability of the chief to do that job. From what I can tell, having worked across, these qualifications, I can't see where the proposed candidate doesn't meet or exceed all of the criteria.
Thank you. All right. All in favor? Aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion passes 4-1.
Okay, I think we're at new business.
Yes.
Yes, new business.
K1.
Okay, this is new business. Item 1, appoint a member of the General Employees Pension Board replaces Arnold Curtis. Representative, General Pension Board, recommendation, appoint.
I don't have the list of the folks.
Those are the three applicants.
Okay. And these are all people from the community?
Yes.
All right.
One more copy, does anyone else need?
Oh, these are multiple copies.
Oh, no, there's three
I'm good.
people.
I got all
There's
that.
three people.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh,
One, each one's an
Each one is a person.
okay. Oh. So,
I'd-
see that one again.
Here's another set of copies.
Mayor, I'd like to hear if these three candidates have any input. I don't know if you want to bring that up.
Are any of the candidates, Shirley Finke or Tim Cubbage or Ellen Owen here tonight? Yes, do you want to say anything?
Hi, my name is Shirley Finke. I live at 190 Seminole Lane here in Cocoa Beach. Have lived here since April 1st of 2014. I also serve as president of the Friends of the Cocoa Beach Library. And I've just lived a very phenomenal life. And for me, it's just very, very important to give back to the community. So any way that I can help, I'd love to do it. Thank you very much.
Either one of the other candidates here? I'll move to nominate Shirley Finke.
Second.
I got a motion and a second. Any discussion?
I agree with Skip.
Okay, any public comment? All right, all in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Okay.
Okay.
Presentation from the Space Coast Mural Festival?
Yes, this is new business. Item 2, presentation from Space Coast Mural Fest, requesting funds and support from Commission. Representative Kyle Trent, event promoter. Recommendation, present and discuss.
Hello, everybody. I appreciate y'all's time today, meeting with me on this special occasion that we're able to, hopefully bring back with a full explosion of color. This year, it's going to be taking place in March, the 23rd and 24th. So for those of you that don't know me, I'll give you a little background because I know we're limited on time. My name is Kyle Trent. I'm the director of the Space Coast Mural Festival. So on the next slide, so this is just some of our support that we had last year at a glance. And then the next slide is some key points. So with this being said, the Wynwood Art District is kind of our blueprint, of what we are basing, the economic development that we're hoping to push here on the Space Coast. And so for those of you that know Wynwood down in the Miami area 15, 20 years ago, it was really rough. There was a lot of low economic, stuff going on there at that time, not a whole lot of development. And then over the years with the murals coming in, it's some of the most sought after, real estate and territory in the state, especially for the arts. Every year they have a massive influx during Art Basel, which is one of the most sought after art events every year around the world. So we're just kind of taking what the arts have done to that area and now amplifying it throughout the Space Coast with our own little twist of a mural festival. So this went from, in 2018, it was the Cocoa Beach Mural Project, to now, just a mural or two each year to the festival. Last year, we were able to install about 12 permanent walls throughout the city, downtown. And we had about 20 other artists that were painting as well throughout the street on our temporary walls. So a couple interesting twists to our event that is not like any other in that respect is the live stream, that allows this potential viral, effect to come on with the mural festival. We have a lot of artists that have a lot of amplified reach, especially on social media, so we're hoping that the live stream takes place and kicks off with that. But the voting also is something that we have, which is really cool, a part of the event. You're able to go in, you're able to vote on your favorite muralist, and that builds a prize pool for these muralists. And so why that's important is because now we have the student muralist section. Last year, we had one artist from the Cocoa Beach High School paint a mural. We were able to donate, some funds back to the arts programs, and now we're just trying to expand on that. Something that is near and dear to my brother's hearts is the arts here in the community. I'm sure a lot of you know that the arts funding was taken out of this area, and so this is a way for us to help install and implement that creativity amongst the Space Coast that we feel is being lost amongst the schools, especially. So with giving back to the community, that is a big piece of it, obviously helping the creativity of the youth, but, a mural map, as well as all of the installments that, are being left behind after this festival. The mural map last year, between the event map and the subsequent map that came from that, which is now like a tour in a sense, had over 30,000 views just from last year to this year, or from the last event to this year. So, we definitely anticipate that amplifying as this gets more recognition, especially throughout the Space Coast and all of that. So the next slide is just kind of the statistics and all of those fun things, different numbers that we had last year. And if we're able to pull up the video recap that's in the bottom right-hand corner, that's just some exciting footage from last year's event.
Oh.
It's okay. Awesome. So to segue us from that into, of course, our ask for the city in that respect. There's a list of things that I had sent over to you guys, the smaller things that hopefully can be helped with as far as, volunteers, friends and family that you guys want to know that can come help out with the event. I do have on here, some miscellaneous expenses like the porta potties, and little things like that. But the big ask that we have really is that the same extended courtesy that we were offered last year as this event. We didn't have to pay for the law enforcement or the public works in that respect. And so if we're able to at least get some help there and not incur any more costs to this event, we'll be able to make sure that it goes off without a hitch and everything runs the way that we plan it to, from this year and years to come. But I want to open it up for you guys to Q&A if you guys have any questions, but that's all that I have.
So, City Manager, could you or Patricia tell us what our costs were incurred last year, basically from Public Works and law enforcement?
I don't have that number right in front of me. Patricia, you got that?
So, Patricia Draycott, CFO. So we don't have that just right now tonight. I mean, we can compile that. Each special event is looked at independently as to the costs that would be involved, and we can grab that, but we just have to do a look back. Now, normally, because you're asking for grant funds, the city does those during the budget process, and the grants and aids is in the commissioner's budget, but this was not budgeted for this year, so each of those funds that were budgeted have already been earmarked, so this would be something outside of the scope of the current budget.
Was that a line item last year's budget that they drew from?
No, not that I'm aware of.
So what I'm getting at is we're getting asked for approval for Public Works, police, whatever fire does, and we don't even know what it's gonna cost. I can't approve that.
I bet Laird has a guesstimate.
No, but also this event last year was a Main Street event also. This was tied in with Main Street. So that's why it was covered too.
Is it not Main Street this time?
It's not Main Street this time, no.
Are they having their own and this will be a second, or this is?
No,
This is prior.
Because we told Main Street we'd give them 12 events a year.
Yeah, this was one of them last year.
But they've already got that with their Friday Fest and all that, so.
But to answer your question, Commissioner, one potential workaround, if you wanted to move forward but stay within a limit, typically the city doesn't go in excess of 5,000 for a grant or aid. So one option that you could look at would be to provide up to 5,000 in police, fire, or public works, and anything over that would have to be paid for by the program, the special events.
Okay, so what I would like to do is table this to February 1st. We do have a meeting on February 1st, correct? That's not very far away. And ask you to come, somebody from the city to come back with what were the expenses from last year. So we'll know if it's, less than 5,000, then we can go that route or whatever it was. But I need numbers before I can make improvements.
I'll say, I love Art, and I love you and David Rothman and all you guys. Unfortunately.
I made a motion to table, so I didn't get a second to get the cost.
I'll second it.
Second.
Okay, when you make a motion to table and you get a second, you vote to
Okay.
table.
Let me talk to him real quick.
No more questions.
Thank you for coming.
No worries. I appreciate y'all's time.
I got a motion and a second.
Is there room for public comment?
Not when you table.
Not with this Nazi. Just
Well,
joking.
if we don't support the motion and we want to have discussion about this, we can simply vote down the.
I would like to have a
motion,
little bit of a discussion so we kind of all know where we're at with it, at least, before we table it. That's my thought on it.
But I think we do have to follow through with the vote.
We
could
could follow through with the
re-motion
vote.
that after discussion. We just got to
We
follow
got a
through with
motion
the
and a
vote.
second. We can discuss this tabling. How's that?
Well, I think we said we can't discuss a tabled motion.
Can't discuss the table?
We'd have to vote it
How
down
does that work,
if we
Becky?
want to have discussion.
If we want to discuss this a little bit more, how does that work?
3 people should vote no on this, or, at the very end, y'all don't make comments again, do you? So 3 of you could vote no.
We could
And then you could.
initiate the same motion.
Sure, absolutely.
Okay, so I think just call the vote.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Nay.
No. Okay, motion is denied.
I want to hear from the public.
Yeah,
Yeah, I wanted to hear more,
and I had a little bit of
and
discussion.
I wanted to discuss a little bit of it, so. Yeah, so you guys, anybody else want to?
KP Finke, 190 Seminole Lane. I would urge you to find money for this. I am the least artistic person I could have been born without a left brain, but every dollar spent on artists is a good dollar spent. So that goes for pictures, for drawings, for music. So I urge you to find the $5,000. Thank you.
Thank you. So guys, what I was gonna say is I like art a lot, and I've thrown art events as well. But if we don't even have money for basically a fireworks show, I don't know if we can find money for something like this as well. As much as I love the idea and love it, I just feel like we have bigger fish to fry than this. That was just my 2 cents.
What if it comes back that the cost of the city were $1,500?
I mean, I would think he's got a lot of sponsors here. I would hope that he could pull it out of his sponsors, but.
Yeah, I think for me, we've already just recently taken on a number of unbudgeted costs, and we have a number ahead of us. I'm with Skip. I'd like to know what we paid for last year, and I'd be curious if we are approving this, we're handing a bill to the city manager, what comes off the table, right? What else that was planned for this year that we were presented in the budget would we need to miss out on, right? And because there's already a big deficit that we've got to cover for recent actions, right? So I'd like to join with Skip and say, one, I'd like to know what it is, and if we can get insight or understanding into what we're trading for, right? I think that would be prudent. I love the murals in Cocoa Beach. I think they're part of the character of Cocoa Beach, and they're part of what we love. Most people love about this city is not just our space history, our surf culture, but also the art, right? And so all for this, I just think we got to make decisions eyes wide open.
Yeah.
Is the recent developments, the City Hall grant not coming through? We're digging out of a $4 million hole now?
I thought we didn't get that.
No, I know, but I want to make sure they're aware that
No,
we're
we did
starting in a $4
not
million
get the
hole.
City Hall grant, by the way.
So it's not
You guys didn't know.
$5,000 nitpicking, or it's a pretty significant hole we've got to dig out of.
I was thinking of other items, but that's a great point.
Did you want to say anything, Caroline? Or?
I just want to see how much it costs first before.
Yeah.
Yeah. Go.
If I'm able to, it was $2,500 last year.
2,500. Okay.
Well, I need to get that.
Yeah,
I appreciate you throwing the number out there, but I'd like to hear it from city staff.
All right. So Skip, if you want to make the same motion, that's fine.
A motion to table this to February 1st so we can get the costs that were incurred last year.
Second.
All right. I got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay. Thank you. That's nice to be able to have a conversation about certain things. Where are we at next?
Okay, this is new business item.
Thank you for following the process.
Item 3. Okay. Adopt ordinance 1686 on first reading, an ordinance of the City of Cocoa Beach, Florida, amending Section 5-15, stopping, parking, mooring, and towing of Article 1, Water Safety of Chapter 5, Beaches, Fills, Boats, and Waterways, and Section 3-28, Seawalls and Waterside Accessory Structures of Article 3, development and construction of Chapter 3 Design Standards of Appendix B Land Development Code, and by adding a new Section 5-17 grandfathering of Article 1 Water Safety of Chapter 5 Beaches, Fills, Boats, and Waterways, all of Cocoa Beach Code of Ordinances, and providing for codification, conflict, severability, and an effective date. Representative Randy Stevenson, Director of Development Services, recommendation approve.
Move to adopt ordinance 1686 on first reading.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any
discuss?
Yeah.
Any public comment?
Yeah.
Or any comment between us? You guys want any explanation on
Yeah, if
some
you
of
want
the
to walk
stuff?
through it, I'm curious. So
Sure. And she can bring it up as well so that the rest of the city can see.
So let me just get this in. We don't have a hard limit. Everything is relative to your shoreline. You can go at 33%.
To a percentage, the shoreline to where, as it says, the 3 foot,
So there's not a hard distance of 25, 35, whatever that hard limit is.
so what you'll see here is, let's see, I'll go off of that one there that she got up. That's going to show you a worst case scenario in a 150-foot canal. The docks that you see on the bottom, second to the left, that's a 30-foot dock. That's what you're legally allowed to go. That's 20%. That is currently right now what our ordinance says our mooring ordinance is. So legally, you can't put a boat at the end of your dock there. If you go up to that line going across, actually all the way across from left to right in the middle of that boat, that's your 40-foot mark. So if you see there, those big boats that you see, those are 50-foot boats on the top and one on the bottom. And that line across, that's your 40-foot mark. So that you'll see, if you have a 30-foot dock and you want to put a 37-foot catamaran, you will be out of commission. If you go to the one with the line on it, the circle around it. Okay, again, the ones circled. So if you see those docks right now, we're forced to have docks where you have to pull in sideways like that. You can see, just disregard the ones sticking out into the canal, but the ones that are actually in the slips. That's the way we're forced to put our docks. As you see, it's not as easy to dock a boat like that when you're required to keep it within that limit. If you see all the way to the left, there's a 30-foot dock, and there's a little tiny boat all the way to the left. There's a little boat on the very end of that dock. That right there would put you at the 40-foot. So you can have a little 20-foot boat legally, but you couldn't actually put a proper boat at the end of your dock if you limited it to 40 feet. So,
Why does the dock have to go out that far?
because legally, 20% is what you're allowed to do, which is what a lot of people
If you
do.
want to have a boat and a dock, you build a smaller dock.
Do you see something that looks like something would be hard to navigate? There's no hindrance to navigation
So
in this
here's-
ordinance.
And I know this is for the 150. I guess what's hurting my head on this is right now, for any width canal, we're allowed from either side to encroach in 20%, which leaves the total passable at 60%, right?
Yeah.
Which makes sense to me. If we go to 33 1/3 and 33 1/3, your total passable goes down to 33%. And especially for the more narrow canals, if both residents on either side build out 33%, we're cutting the canals in Cocoa Beach from a 60% passable requirement to a 33. We're cutting that in half.
Okay, here's the
I don't
thing.
know where that makes
the land
sense.
code and the mooring code.
Yeah.
Somebody decided to change it to 20% to make the mooring code the same as the land code, which makes no sense. It was 33 1/3 before, and we never had an issue, ever. He can tell you.
Yeah, 33 and a third. That would be, if you had a boat with 25-foot beam, you're still gonna have 4 feet on both sides.
And so you got
down the
25-foot
middle of the
beam, but
canal.
you got two coming at each other. One's got to pull over to the side for the other to go through. Is that?
You're never gonna have it built to the max.
It's
That's
very
built to the
seldom
max.
that you have, all our canals are dead-end canals.
Yeah.
If you're in a navigable channel, if you're going out from where you and I live
Yeah.
to the golf course area, and you're going through the navigable channel, and you're in a boat like mine with 13-foot beam, and somebody's coming along with the 12-foot beam pontoon boat,
What if it's him?
you have to, one person, you slow down and you make it by each other.
And it's not the wider navigable channels I'm worried about. I'm
That's-
thinking small, that's every
that
single one
channel
of.
is skinnier than any of the canals.
What I'm getting at is a 33 1/3% is what we've had from the beginning with no problem.
Which is still allowed per this ordinance.
When we went to.
I'm saying, yeah.
When we went to 20%, we now have, I counted every boat, we have 95 boats out of compliance because we changed that rule. But we still have had no complaints and no problems. So if we put it back to where it was, 33 1/3,
That's what
no harm, no foul.
That's what it is.
I know, that's what it is, but we have a
It's per
conflict.
one and not per the other is what we're saying, right?
This eliminates that conflict, isn't that correct, Becky?
Yes, it does.
That's it.
And what I'm saying
It
is
just
that
leaves it at 33%.
it makes more sense to me to have a majority width passage than a minority width passage. I'm saying it makes sense to me to if we changed the one and neglected to change the other, I would update to match the newer version.
But then you're putting everybody out of compliance. What I'm saying, it doesn't
What the
make
grandfather
sense.
rule is for, right?
No. Then
No.
you cause disparity.
There's too many problems.
Because
That's
If
the
you can't
nature of
drive
the
a boat through a
grandfathered rule.
35-foot section of water, you probably shouldn't be driving a boat.
So,
Yeah.
Well, hang on. Appreciate
tell you,
the benefit you're looking for. It doesn't make
I've
sense.
had to take
Yeah.
boats out of canals in Fort Lauderdale, where all the mega yachts are, and you go down those canals, and you're lucky if you have a foot on both sides.
Okay, we don't want to be Fort
Those
Lauderdale.
videos, those are nauseating to watch. I don't
So,
want that in.
Let me throw a different.
No, I think this is workable the way it's written. That's why I'm supporting it.
Well-
Appreciate that. It doesn't make any sense to me.
It doesn't make sense to him, so we gotta help him understand this. We don't just tell him, hey, this is the way it is. We gotta make you
Yeah.
understand, because you're not probably a boater, right? I mean, so if you're not.
Have driven boats, have ridden in boats. I don't know what the level
Live
of
on the water.
requirement is. Yeah.
And-
I know I have a canal home.
And I will tell you that on your block, there's 2 boats that are past the 33 1/3 percent. And, I've been all the way down your canal with a 52-foot boat.
Yeah, the
and
break
flipped
comes through.
around, no problem.
Yeah.
And I've gone through where you've got people exceeding the limit right now, not a problem. So I know it seems like, hey, I'm only doing 60%, or I'm only putting from 60% going down to 33. But when you look at what the amount of foot, width it is, it's not a scary amount to
What's
navigate
the
through.
most narrow canals that we have?
The absolute most narrow canal we have is 70 feet. But you're talking about, you're not gonna put a yacht down a 70-foot
I'm not
canal.
just worried about one boat. I'm talking about the ability to go boats passing each other and
Okay.
keeping the canals open.
Mike Masters.
Yes, that's the one.
Blake.
Yeah,
Okay.
he's got the narrowest canal
He's
ever.
got a
Yeah, he has a
50-foot Ocean Alexander.
Sure.
He's
Okay?
on a 70-foot canal.
And it's gotta be 16-foot beam?
I got a picture of it right here.
Yeah.
Well, wouldn't you say it's about a 16-foot beam?
Yes, 16-foot beam.
So I go
do the-
down,
yeah,
I
do
go
the
down
math.
that canal.
Right. What's the width of the canal? As we
and
said,
he's
70,
in
right?
16-foot.
Right, 16 foot,
I'm at
70 foot canal.
13.9, okay? I went just past his house and turned around on a dime in that canal, and no problem.
And he's out of the norm. He's got
Sure.
the probably
But he
the
didn't
biggest-
have a 20-foot dock and then his 16-foot beam boat. He's got it right up against the seawall.
So what you're proposing is on a 70-foot canal, like we're talking about, and a 16-foot beam, you've got a total passable area as he's driving through of just over 7 feet remaining. That's my point.
It's not a scary situation. It's not like you're racing through that. You're going at walking
What
speed.
I'm saying is, you're limiting the canal where you can pass by each
No,
other
no,
right
no.
now.
If
As you get down to 33% for any of the smaller canals, you're now one-way.
What's 1/3 of 70?
It's
1/3 of
21?
70, or 33% of 70 is 23.3. Right, so you put a 16-foot beam through there, you're at
I doubt
7
we
feet.
have any boats that are over 20-foot beam in Cocoa Beach.
Well, I was doing that on a 16-foot beam, now you're at a 20-foot beam and you're.
No, I'm saying
It
you
gets
could
worse,
still
you're down to
get through
3
there
feet.
with both sides being 33%.
Right, but you're turning it into a one-way canal.
They're
Yeah,
always.
but you don't hardly ever have two boats on a dead-end canal coming at each other.
I watch boats pass each other on our canal. I mean, I appreciate.
They do. So look, you're bringing up an extreme of one canal that somebody, they could, in theory, everybody could build out to the max.
They
but
could. And I think
it's-
that's what we got to consider when we write the policies.
There's only going to be.
That's why we're writing it now, and the people that are in violation have a year to either come into compliance or get grandfathered. And this is to eliminate this problem from getting worse in the future.
It sounds like we're making it worse.
We're putting it back to we're fixing the code. We're putting it to how it was. We have never had a problem
What I'm
in
saying is
50
we
years.
changed it, and now we're out of compliance for one we didn't update. It just makes sense to me that we're not writing our code for the widest canal. We're considering the average and the smallest canal as well. And I don't see how the scenario we just talked through that you guys used as an example of what it makes sense holds water.
So
No pun intended.
What would you think is a good idea?
I think actually updating the one we didn't update and bringing that into code where we are taking up max 40% of the canal with docks and moorings makes more sense.
Okay, I'm gonna.
I'm okay, I understand if there's disagreement on
And so, what I'm gonna tell you is you're gonna make a problem for the rest of the entire city over one canal.
That was the canal numbers you guys gave me.
That was one
We can-
canal.
we can
one
go
canal in the
canal
whole
by
city
canal
is-
and
that
look.
is you asked what the skinniest canal in Cocoa Beach was.
So let me
Go ahead.
throw out another perspective. How do we anticipate measuring this 33% on the canals that don't have a bulkhead on the opposite side?
That's to 3 feet of water depth.
I understand that, but what I'm saying is, are you expecting the city to navigate out in a boat, find a spot that's 4 feet deep, and then measure?
No, you can go on the Brevard
Existing
Property
dock.
Appraiser website and you could measure exactly how.
We would do it off of an aerial or satellite?
We have our own stuff too, I believe, don't we?
In fact, if you go.
I just see-
If you go on Google Earth and you put your cursor on it, it'll say it's -3 feet.
I mean,
And we're gonna use that as the basis to measure, that's all I'm asking.
Yeah. And so
Proposing
here's
to
the
do
thing
all
too
this
is,
aerial.
if we have problems, like I said, in the last 50, 60 years we've ever had this ordinance, it's been the same.
Yeah.
We've never had problems. And if we did have problems, then we can regulate.
I think it's reasonable to add a hard limit, so there's a duplicate, so it's a relative measurement as well as a hard limit.
So this is what I'm showing you with this hard limit. If you're gonna put a hard limit of 40, it doesn't make sense for these canals. For example, when you buy a house and you buy it in a nicer neighborhood, you buy it because the house is bigger or the property is bigger or whatever. We bought because the canal is bigger, so we can have bigger boats. That shows you that one all the way on the left, on the outside, that's what you would be allowed if you put a 40-foot hard limit. That little tiny boat at the very end, that's it. A lot of us have already, because we live in a nice neighborhood, we built to the max because that's what we're allowed to do. Then somebody decided to make an ordinance change to 20%, and they didn't realize that, hey, that's our dock ordinance. It doesn't make sense. Now, if you go and you look at every other one of those, you still have 50 feet between any given thing. So if you put a max, the only one that you're going to hinder that changes that to, instead of being 33 1/3%, it puts it right back at 26.5%.
So
the
I'm
only
interested
limit
as to
would
why
hurt
it was updated and changed up to 20%. I'm interested in, on the average canal in Cocoa Beach, and I don't know what the average number
It's
is.
about 100 to 120.
So the math still hurts my head on that.
You're looking at
Just-
33 to 37 feet.
The going back, if there was a nonsense reason that we changed it to 20% piece, I can get my head around that. If it was, oh, we made a mistake, let's fix this, be interested. I'm struggling with this. I'd be open to if we could change this to a second reading and get more public comment and get some more intel from the city.
If it passes on first reading, it comes back for a second reading.
No, this says pass on first reading.
That's right, but it has to have 2 readings.
Yeah, we pass it on the first reading, which means it comes back for a
Oh,
second reading.
okay, so it would come back.
Yeah, it's coming back.
Absolutely.
So
Okay.
you get a chance to do a little more education.
Okay,
Hey, Wayne,
I misunderstood
a
that.
chance, since you're kind of like an engineer guy, how far would you say from that stage is to that wall? Maybe 40 feet?
No, more than that.
I wouldn't doubt it's not much more than 40 feet.
50 feet maybe?
Definitely not 50. Anyways, this is typically what you would have between boats going through a typical canal with a 33 1/3%. If you can't drive between this, you shouldn't be driving a boat. That's with a 33 1/3%. That's about your width going through. So,
okay.
Do you have any questions or concerns,
I
Carolyn?
just wanted to know if, I guess Randy would have any answers to those questions. Are we allowed to call Randy?
Yeah, we can call him.
I think we have to ask
Yeah,
city
that's what I'm
manager.
asking, yeah.
I didn't
And
hear
then
a question.
while we're waiting,
Can we
let's take
ask-
some public comment.
Can we ask Randy some questions? Will you know?
I guess.
But you didn't
Want
close.
to get Randy up?
I don't know if it might help answer
I
some of the
wanted,
questions.
Janice Scott. I didn't quite understand your explanation of the circles, but I do want to just make the observation. Honestly, I haven't read the ordinance, but it seems that the changes or whatever, it's quite
20%.
a bit has gone over here, that maybe you table this for the first reading, because if you're going to make any changes based on public comment, you should do it in first reading, not in the second reading. But I've watched over the years the Board of Adjustment meetings about who's coming and wanting more docks and so on and so forth. And that first, the dock that's inside and a boat on the outside, that seems to be a growing phenomena here. I don't know if you're limiting the numbers of boats per resident.
Yeah, I believe you can have
Here.
5 boats per resident.
But it seems like they have a dock, and then they put a floating dock, and then they put a boat outside the floating dock. And I hope that some of that's being addressed here.
Thank you, Janice.
Thank you.
Yeah, you want to? I know he just got here, guys. So you gotta bear with him.
Again, thank you, Commissioner, I appreciate it. I haven't had much of a chance to digest a lot of it. I know we've worked with this in and out through the years, relative to the docks and the boats and so forth. I would draw your attention, obviously, if you do it by percentage, the smaller canals are going to be smaller, and we still have the codicil in 515 that you can't reduce the navigable width of the canal to less than 35 feet.
Okay. Well, there
So
you
if you've
go.
got a 70-foot canal with 33 and a 33, you're not going to be able to do that, because if you did it on both sides, it reduces that to 26 feet, I believe. You can't reduce it to less than 35, which is still in the Code of Ordinances under 515, if that helps you at all.
Something, yeah.
That should definitely, solve your concerns, because, like you said, you can't reduce the width less than 35 feet anyways.
But yeah, and I'd want to pull the thread on the 35 if that's
I've
the right
seen it
number.
it's in the code for sure.
No. I believe that, just whether 35 is the right number or not.
Oh, yeah.
And again, in measuring the width of the canal, just as a little bit, we have the ability, most of the canals are bulkheaded. That's easy to measure. We do have push for, and we're getting more and more what we call living shorelines. And we have a ability, when measuring the width of that waterway, to account for those slopes on those living shorelines. You go down to, I believe it's 0.6 of a foot below the water before you start counting towards the width of the canal. So living shorelines, while a good thing, will also reduce the width that we use to calculate how far the docks can go out in the moorings. Okay.
Thank you.
Do you know why they brought it to 20%?
I'll tell you, actually, Orson Tarver was the one that, that brought that one forward, by the way.
Randy, do you know why it was switched or what the justification was, at least when the commission voted for that, or what Orson brought forward?
The difference between the Code of Ordinances and the LDR?
Yeah, why was it set to 20% on either side instead of the 33?
I wasn't here for that. It was part of the modifications to the LDR, though, was 20%. It was the thinking, I suppose, of the commission at that time. Again, I don't want to speak too much about that because I didn't have any personal experience with that. That was in the code when I arrived.
Nobody understands that.
If you don't,
It wasn't apples to apples when that happened.
if you don't operate boats or understand boats, this isn't going to make as much sense to you. I've been operating boats for over 40 years. I've been on the water my entire life. To somebody that doesn't understand and they say, oh, well, you only got, 7 feet on either side of you to get through. It's like when you drive your car through a neighborhood and somebody's parked on the side of the road. You just drive around them. Like, it's not like it jumps sideways on you. It's a boat. It drives straight.
Yeah, and so when I'm driving down my street and I got a car parked here and a car parked here, and somebody's coming this way and I'm coming this way, I got to pull over and let them get through, or they got to pull.
Same thing in a boat.
Yeah.
Right, and that's what I'm saying. That's a big irritant. I don't. It's annoying when that happens.
That's why they
So-
that's like a car.
Do you know off the top of your head what Satellite Beach is? If not, I'm going to vote no tonight and do some
I don't-
research.
I don't
They
know.
have some problem. They need
I'm
more
trying to
satellite.
I'm trying to make an ordinance that works for most of the people in Cocoa Beach.
Understand.
So, and I'm
I don't
trying to
think,
fix
I
an
think
ordinance.
tonight, the first reading is the time to tweak it, not the second reading. So I'm
Well,
going to vote
let
no.
me explain that to you, and thanks, Janice, for pointing that out. And the city attorney can correct me if I'm wrong. But if we pass this on first reading, it comes back for the second reading. The second reading is advertised per law. If we make what the city attorney would consider a substantial change at the second reading, then you just bring it back one more time for a final reading. Is that correct?
Yes, usually if it changes the title, in other words, if you added something completely different. But you could change 35 to 40 to 32 or whatever. That probably could be fine to not bring it back again.
Okay.
So one more thing. So you're afraid that we're going to make something that's going to put a hardship on people, right?
Right.
So, like I said, right now we have 95 vessels that are out of compliance because of that. We need to go to 33 1/3% to bring 90% of those back into compliance. We don't currently have an issue where people can't get by. We don't have an issue where people are complaining that the boats can't get by and they're out of what that secondary ordinance was. So I don't want to just I don't want to fix the problem by saying, well, we'll just grandfather the other people, and I want it to actually work for people, not just have it work for a few and let them grandfather in. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense to just, well, grandfather them in to fix a problem, because.
But the problem with grandfathering is it's a state of time, okay? So you've got a 13-foot whaler with a 4.5-foot beam, but you're over the limit. So you get grandfathered in. You decide to buy a 16-foot whaler with a 5.5-foot beam. That doesn't, your grandfathering's gone. You only get your grandfathering for that 4.5-foot wide boat.
That's true.
Yeah, and that's generally how grandfathering works.
So what he's saying is 90% of the problems will be solved by going to the 33%. The other people have opportunities to be grandfathered in, which means they'll be legally non-conforming. If they sell their property and the boat goes away, then the next person can't come back and say, I'm gonna buy the exact same boat and put it here. The
If we change the law and allow
The
somebody to
grandfathering
do
doesn't
that.
go with the land unless
There's
it's a
some people,
structure.
Yeah, I
some-
understand how
Unless it's a
grandfathering
structure.
works.
If your
Right.
dock is too far out and you go through the grandfathering process and you're only allowed 20 feet out and you're 25 feet out and you grandfather it, then the next guy that buys a house can leave the dock at 25 feet.
Sure.
But he can't turn around and build it to 30.
Right.
And if it gets destroyed in a storm, he can't rebuild it to 25.
Right. Yep.
There's
Understood.
some that are beyond the 33 1/3%, which is why you would need grandfathering.
Right.
That, the 33 1/3 would take care of our main problem.
Or if we updated the other code to match the 20%, you still have that
you'd have-
opportunity.
If you put it to 20%, you would have even more than 90 people out of compliance.
The 20% is what's being enforced right now, right?
No.
33 1/3 is. That code they wrote doesn't match. The 33 1/3 is being enforced,
When was that code changed?
like 7 years ago or something.
And so we haven't been enforcing it?
No, because it doesn't match. It's out of compliance
We
with.
pointed
the-
that out at the time that it came out, because the question came up. And I think I was the one that pointed it out. You know, because I'm at the 33%, and that's what I went by.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, there's a thing that says 20%. I'm like,
We
that
don't need
don't
to
work.
We don't need to reinvent the wheel. We just need to fix that cog that somebody put out of place. All we need to do is put it back to where it was so that everybody's back in compliance. We
All right,
have
so-
no problems.
A data point, Satellite Beach is 35 feet or 30%, whichever's less. So it has what I'm asking for, a hard limit. Because
They've
I
got
don't want
smaller,
just to-
they got much smaller
Let me
canals.
finish.
Okay.
Let me finish. It has the dual number, so it has a hard limit, which is an absolute, and a relative measurement. I think the relative measurement is just gonna cause problems. I know you don't, but that's my position. I don't think we need to reinvent the wheel, because Satellite Beach's got the exact same problem. 35 feet, 30%, whichever's less.
You see the picture up there.
So if
You-
we
you
can
can't
make
put a
changes
boat.
like that on the second reading, I'm fine tonight. If material changes like that wouldn't require.
Good, because I did not put in the title, the exact details of it.
Then I'm fine tonight, but I want to do some digging.
I think I am too. I've
That's
got
my
some
hang-up. I
more
want a
questions
hard
to get
number on
answered,
it.
but I'm okay
If you
tonight.
put a hard number, you're only hurting the people with the bigger, nicer properties.
So then let's negotiate that number. But all I'm pointing is I want to have an absolute limit. The example I'm hearing is, I'll use my example, I'm on a 200-foot canal. I don't want my neighbor to have a 65-foot dock, even though it's completely compliant. That seems unreasonable.
It's mooring, not a dock. This is only to do with boats.
Some structure sitting out 65 feet that I've got to zigzag around. I don't know. That's my position.
So what do you think you would like to see as a hard number?
35 and 30, whichever's less seems reasonable.
No, it wouldn't, everybody'd be out of compliance is what I'm telling you. You can't make it smaller than it was.
We're out of compliance.
And I need to do some more
Okay,
research.
well, I think there's at least 3 people on here that understand.
No, I
about
understand.
boats.
I think Josh understands. It's not an understanding concern, it's a
And I'm
disagreement
not
concern.
nearly to the level of experience you have, and I appreciate that.
Okay.
I have enough experience to have concern.
Okay.
But again, I think as Commissioner
Public-
said.
Any other, I guess we had public comment already.
Yeah, we did.
All right. Okay, all in favor of this? We had a motion and a second already? Yeah.
Yep.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes 5-0.
Okay, next is item 4, approve the scope of services and fee estimate from Insiduform Technologies LLC for gravity sewer rehabilitation for approximately, and I'm correcting a scrivener's error, 18,329 feet of gravity sewer pipe in the amount of $1 million, utilizing a piggyback contract on the existing contract between the City of St. Augustine and Insiduform Technologies LLC. The work is being done for the city's State of Florida Department of Environmental Protection Grant Agreement, LPA 0493. This is 100% grant funded. Representative Brad Calzo, Water Reclamation Director, recommendation approved.
Move to approve. Go Brad.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any public comment? Any commission comment? All right. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes 5-0.
Okay, item 5 was removed by the applicant. Item 6, proposed ordinance regarding capital fund projects fund, representative, city commission recommended discuss.
We didn't get it. We didn't get
All right, I was talking to, I was talking to Patricia about this one. And I know that my $1 million a year is ambitious, I should say. But it's a starting point, right? She said definitely she believes that we can do $500,000 this year for sure. And then Patricia, if you'd like to come up, is that okay with you, Wayne?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
New sheriff in town.
She has some ideas how we could come close to or start with a capital project fund. I think that we really should have.
Patricia Draycott, CFO. So one of the options is just to add to the reserve policy. So at the end of fiscal year 23, the City Commission moved to approve an ordinance that took our current 17% reserve policy and increased it to 19%, and then committed that 19% to the recovery of any disaster damage, and then set the remaining reserve balance to an additional 1% to go up every single year for the next 5 years, bringing the total required reserve balance to a minimum of 25%. And there is sufficient reserves currently that would allow the City Commission to commit additional funding to future new capital purchases as the mayor is hoping to do. And that could be just changing the existing ordinance or just doing it by resolution. So that is an option. It would take an estimated 3.1% of reserves, additional reserves to be committed for that. What that net result really does to the commission is it just limits how much of the available reserves could be used for balancing the budget, because those funds would be then committed to a specific purpose.
So basically you're saying is rather than having extra money to use on whatever, we would just set it aside first to make sure that we could do our capital projects in the future.
So that then puts those funds aside, but then it now limits the availability of funds for the budget.
Right.
So if the budget cannot be balanced with the existing proposed revenues, then you would be faced with the decision of what to cut or to increase the millage. But, that's always part of the decision process. So that's one option. And another option that was discussed is a millage increase that would be specific to this proposal, and those funds would not be available for any purpose other than future capital projects.
Which are to be defined.
We can define all that.
Yeah, that's what bothers me is, who gets to define what a capital project is?
We do.
But we aren't gonna always be here.
If the commission wants to change it in the future, they have the option to vote it and change it themselves.
Anyway, what I'm hearing is currently, thank God we didn't have hurricanes this year and are not waiting for, we didn't have to spend a bunch of money and we're not gonna have to wait 2 years for FEMA to pay us back. I think we're about caught up with FEMA from 2 years ago. So we've got good reserve balance, but we knew that reserve balance wasn't quite large enough to meet the normal standards of reserve balance for a beachfront community that could suffer a disaster. So we voted as a commission to increase our reserve balance, okay? But that reserve balance is defined on what it can be spent on, and it's not capital projects, okay? So I think kind of what I might have misunderstood you, but you could say, well, if you don't increase the reserve balance, the 1% a year like we said to get it to the adequate reserve balance, then you could put that money into capital projects.
Actually, what the suggestion is that would remain unchanged, but you would commit another additional 3%. So instead of it being a total of 25% of your expenditures being committed, it would be 28. With that additional 3% restricted to future capital projects. So you're actually increasing your committed reserve balances.
So.
Right, but I would rather, because I don't want there to be a gray area between what's a capital project and what's can be reserve money spent on. Keep the reserve money separate for just basically emergencies.
We have that.
We have that already.
Right, I know we have
And that's
that.
what we're increasing the 1% per year.
Right.
This is on top of that.
This would be
not drawing from it.
separate. This would be separate.
So you've already committed 19% to repair of damage caused by emergency. And then you have another 2% this year that will continue to increase over a period of years. That is reserve balance requirements that are uncommitted. So you will have a total of 25% in 3 years. That is reserve balances that must be now legally maintained. What the option here is to increase that an additional 3%. That will be an additional committed funds above and beyond what you've
separate
already
fund.
done.
But where's that money come from, that extra 3%?
You just,
Millage rate.
no, well, you can do a millage rate, or like she said, she can try to find it in the budget.
Well,
So,
you won't find it in the budget, but what it does is it.
But I was the only one that challenged it last
We
year.
currently have more in reserve balances than 25%. It's currently closer to, right now, we're at about 30%. Anything above what our ordinance has said we have to keep in reserve balances can be used by the city in the budget process for balancing the budget.
Okay, so we're at 30%.
it comes
There
out,
is some volatility in where that money is, that
Yes.
within 6 months, it could drop down below 28% if we never touch it.
Yes.
See, so just because it's up a little,
It's not, it's.
don't think that,
I know that.
you know, it could go down to 25%, you know?
Which means if you set your reserve balance to say 28% to meet this,
then it's all relative.
and it dropped down below that, then there would have to be budgetary cuts or other considerations.
I got a question.
I don't want to touch the
So-
reserves.
So every year, you plan which, we all plan which, what capital projects we have. We plan it out for the 5 years or whatever, of when we're gonna make it happen. And you always make it so we can afford it. And so I'm kind of wondering why we have to do this anyway. Is it just in case, or?
So,
We already increased how much reserves, and we're gonna keep, I feel like we're gonna choke ourselves for no reason. Like,
say we have a $12 million project coming up, and we know we're gonna be redoing that fire station on the north end. It's coming. You guys know it. But say we had a $12 million project coming up at 7% interest. That's $1 million a year, principal and interest. And that's going to be a 30-year mortgage. Or if we saved $1 million a year, we would have it completely paid off in 12 years. I mean, it's just, if everybody out here that runs their house with a savings account for specific things, and you know, hey, I know that I'm going to move, or I know I'm going to fix this or fix that. We all set it aside. Why is the city any different? Why would we not set money aside? If we would have did it in the beginning with the city hall, we wouldn't have been in this position in the first place. it just makes sense. This is fiscally responsible.
But then we have to raise the millage rate or something. We have to, or cut some capital project that we can't do to have money to do that. So
Can I ask Becky a question? Becky, this was for discussion. We're not voting on this ordinance tonight.
Correct, it was
Okay.
only for discussion.
Okay. Is there a legal way to word this ordinance so that it's more of a goal than a
Certainly.
must-have?
Oh, certainly.
So
She actually did. She said we endeavor. She didn't say
Yeah,
we must.
endeavor is the,
Said we have a $500,000 this
Okay.
year, and we endeavor
Yes.
to do $1 million, which I think Patricia made a great point. It's better off to do a percentage than a hard number, because that what we bring in is going to vary, and it would strap us a little more. So the percentage is great. If she said if we did do a millage increase, it would be a 0.3636 increase,
Based on current year.
which would be $236 a year annually, and that would be specifically for a specific $1 million a year
savings.
Reserve savings account for capital projects. I personally don't want to raise taxes. I would like to try to see if we can, find it within our budget to try to, I mean, even if it's $500,000 a year, it's something better than what we've got now.
Okay, so I'm okay with bringing this back, Becky, just as long as it's not a cast in concrete.
oh no, it's definitely not cast in concrete.
Okay, but most ordinances are, so let's
Right.
make
Until
sure.
you change them.
Let's make sure we legally word it so that we're not like guaranteed we have to raise taxes to do something to put this rainy day fund together.
It's not a rainy day fund.
Well, not rainy
It's
day
happening.
fund, but it's
happening.
uncommitted future expenses.
Within 5 years, you're going to be building another fire
It's an
station.
uncommitted
Guarantee it.
future expense.
I'd like to hear from the out there. You got to come up here if you want to speak, though. We'll try to keep it at 3 minutes.
Yeah. John Butera, 14 Willow Green. I think unallocated reserves are ridiculous, myself. If you're planning, you don't have to have your reserves unallocated. If you know you need a fire station in 5 years, then set your budget for a fire station in 5 years, right? Nobody reserves for, if you live in the desert, you're not going to reserve for a rainy day, right? We know what our reserve expenses typically are. They're hurricane related. We know what capital projects we're going to have in the next 5 to 10 years. To even consider a tax raise to create a fund for something as nebulous as that, good luck. You won't be on the council for long, I don't think. That's all I've got to say about that.
Scott Cunningham, 2100 North Atlantic Avenue, Cocoa Beach. The thing that I would like, and this may not be the particular resolution, but I think what seems to keep being ignored is when you come up with a capital budget, and once you build a building, you have to set some reserves aside and know when you're going to spend the money on repairing and maintaining that building. That's the whole concept of sustainability. And what has been happening is we have all these capital assets, and they are not being maintained. And so all that builds up until you have, a bad country club needing a lot of repair, a city hall that got, frankly, derelict, a police station that got derelict. You have to have, if you're going to do capital improvements, when you do it, plan for the future with how you're going to maintain that capital improvement as a good asset. Thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay. You guys, any extra comments from you guys?
So I like the idea of, and I appreciate actually both comments. I like where you're going with this. I think if we've got known expenditures that are coming up, Firehouse is a great example. Let's get ahead of it. Let's start tightening the belt and put it in. I don't like the idea of continuing to spend in other places when we know we have to have this. I think to Skip's point, we got to be careful not to lock ourselves in and pay a penalty now while trying to do something smart, right? So I think there's a balance there. But one of the first things we cut, in my experience, which is lengthy, is maintenance, right? And it's common. It's not just our city. It's across the federal government. We build buildings, and then the first time we get a budget cut, we keep our favorite projects and we defer. We defer. So I almost think that a paired ordinance where we also are intending to set aside funding for capital maintenance that's separated out from the budget says, hey, this is something very specific that we're going to be intentional about investing in the infrastructure we've already put in place and maintaining those things. I'm not exactly sure how we do that.
I brought that exact comment up. And Patricia, if you wouldn't mind, one more time, sorry.
Well, she's coming up to your point, and everybody's probably heard it that's ever been in business, is backlog of BMAR, which is backlog of maintenance and repairs. Everybody's got that problem. You probably got that problem at your house, you know.
Well, we do have a fund that is used for maintenance. Is that right?
We budget for maintenance and repairs within the operating budget. Some of the departments have had contingency funds for unanticipated costs. Most of those contingency funds were cut during the '24 budget process.
That's my concern.
So one of the concerns she was telling me about is if you do have a specific maintenance fund, then you're basically giving the guys free range to spend what they want, and then without keeping them accountable for a specific budget for the maintenance. So it's almost, that way it keeps them in line for not spending too much.
So I think what we're getting is not spending at all. So I mean, I get you. We got to be clever in how we proceed, but I think being intentional and forcing discipline to maintain the systems that we put in place, we're missing that right now. I think we need to start doing it, and fencing funding is an effective way to do it. But to your point, fencing it wisely so it doesn't just become, hey, this is where I get to blow a bunch of money. I don't
100%.
think our leadership does that. We've got city manager who's quite shrewd and department heads who are as well. So I think we can mitigate some of that concern by just having sharp focus.
I just, you know, I don't want to just set a number in there and put money in it every year, and if the budget doesn't close, and well, we got to have that in there, and you're gonna borrow from the citizenry by raising the millage rate so that you can put this money into that fund that you promised yourself. So that's why I'm saying, make sure the legal language doesn't make it mandatory.
Yeah, I agree with that, because this budget, see, you guys didn't even want to raise the millage rate for stuff we actually needed. Forget about an extra fund. So I don't see why now we're thinking about raising the millage rate for extra money. So I agree with Skip.
But that's a great point. No one wanted to cut any of the operating expenses to fund this last year. I was the only one that said, hey, let's cut, here's $1 million we can cut of items. So we're gonna have that exact same problem 6 months from now, 8 months from now. So I like the idea. I just think it's, like you said, it's a,
Well, like you said, and she put in the language before, it said
Yeah.
we endeavor to, and we absolutely have a guaranteed $500,000 this year, and we can endeavor to do the 3.1%, which is what she said we would need to do, and if we can't, we can't. We come back and at that point, we get together and we vote on, we say, hey, what do you guys feel comfortable with doing for this next year? But I think we still can't negate the fact that we should definitely set aside. The way I figured it is, and the reason why I said $1 million is because I feel like with the way our current spending is going, we would need about $1 million a year to keep, just to keep neutral. So that was kind of like what I figured.
But I'd like to expand this to include not just new projects, but health of the projects we've already implemented.
You want this to be to allow for that as well?
Yeah, if we're gonna use this
It'll get depleted before you even build something else. That needs to be separate as well then if you want to do that, in my opinion.
Could do that.
So Mayor, we discussed this. Basically, we can just give consensus to have Becky go kind of finalize the ordinance and bring it back.
And I'd like to
I'd be happy to, but I'm not hearing what you want changed, because it's already.
I just want to make sure
It's,
it's not cast in concrete.
it is not. Well, the only thing that,
And it doesn't say anything about what the mayor was talking about and Patricia was talking about, which is the 3% type thing. Should that be in there or not be in
We
there?
could change that to 3%, reserves, an endeavor of 3% for the reserves.
shall endeavor to budget 3%.
Yeah, reserves committed. And to Skip's point, just, well, you already have on there what capital projects are, but I don't want this to be for maintenance because I know it'll be depleted before it's needed. So
Can we, one, separate a separate language, or at least start to draft language on a capital maintenance similar fund? But then,
We gonna add more money on top of that? I mean.
No, I think what would be a good idea is to actually ask Patricia what we normally spend on maintenance every year.
yeah,
And if we can kind of get maybe every like a 3-year.
rolling average.
A 3-year rolling average, then at that point, we could say, okay, this is typically what you spend. Let's change that to a separate fund too, just for maintenance. That might be an
we could get
idea.
a look at
Yeah, but right
something
now
like
the
that.
maintenance is a piece of all the different departmental budgets that have things that have to be maintained.
Does that sound feasible, or is that?
So I would not, what you're talking about is an internal service fund, and I would not recommend doing that.
I agree.
And the reason for that is each department does budget for maintenance costs, repairs and maintenance. For example, within your Public Works Fleet Department division, all of the costs for maintaining the vehicles are budgeted by our fleet manager. He is a manager that actually knows the job very well, and he does very accurate budgeting. There's always going to be things that we can't anticipate or expect, where the budget will come in under or come over. But Brad Kelslow, who's your manager, your director of your water reclamation department, is also very skilled at predicting and budgeting for the repairs and maintenance costs of the plant. So I think that for the most part, outside of unanticipated costs, you've got departments that are very skilled at that. And those costs then are budgeted as operating costs within the department for which they pertain. When you do an internal service fund, you lose kind of track of where those costs really belong. So if you move all of them into an internal service fund, you start to lose track of what does it really cost to operate your fleet budget.
I understand.
And if you have an internal service fund, you still have to charge those costs back to your enterprise fund. So now you get a lot more things moving in your budget and your financial report.
What would be
First
a
person
more
with their hand in the pie gets the money, and then the other people get
Yeah.
left with nothing.
So what would be a more effective way to decrease the deferred maintenance that we're seeing?
You know what I think, honestly? I don't think this is necessarily as much as a money issue as an accountability issue.
Well, and so that's kind of interested if there's a way to increase accountability, or what would drive us towards, because we don't have control over that as
Not
a
accountability
commission.
of funds, an accountability of getting stuff fixed and done properly and making sure it's done.
Right, but I think what we're seeing is continuously the maintenance being deferred, right?
Not because of lack of funds. Do you understand what I'm saying? We have a lot of stuff that needs to be
We are spending
maintained.
money elsewhere, I agree. And what I'm saying is, how do we force our hand to bias towards maintenance? And I don't know if there's a financial approach to that or not.
It depends on the type that you're talking about. If you're talking about operational maintenance costs, such as repairs to the buildings that are minor, those do get budgeted, those do get done. What you see getting deferred is much larger projects. So, for example, street repairs, street overlays, all of that street funding that the Public Works Director had initially in the budget, all got deferred, $650,000. We just didn't have the money. So it's those bigger projects that you'll see that get deferred rather than your sort of normal operating type.
So your recommendation is to have this capital fund to achieve
But you don't need to. You've already got a capital improvements plan. So you have a 5-year capital improvements plan. And in that, you'll see every year for a 5-year period what each of your departments are projecting as your capital costs. And it's up to the commissioners to decide which of those projects they want to fund and which need to be deferred.
But we get to put those into the budget directly, or is that what gets budgeted against, but still is under the discretion of the departments once it's actually funded?
So what happens in the budget process is the first step is the departments put in their requests, how they perceive their spending is going to happen for the upcoming year. And then throughout the next few months, there's budget workshops with the commissioners, and the commissioners start to give direction as to what they want left in and what they want cut out. Or if they want to have none of that cut out and they want to go for other options. And that could be finding ways to increase revenues, or it could be a proposed millage increase.
So I guess what I'm saying is that the current process is what I think you're describing, and that the effect of the current process has been deferred maintenance. And so I'm looking for a change to the current process somehow, and it doesn't have to be set aside funds like this, if that's the wrong answer, but something that's going to push us towards prioritizing the maintenance to the things we've already delivered to the city.
So that would be a decision of the city commission. So the city commissioners can always say, we want to cut somewhere here so that this doesn't get cut. Or the city commissioners could elect to do, a tax increase. Or if it's in the enterprise funds, the city commission could elect to do a user fee increase to the cost of the sewer or the stormwater.
So going back to this particular item, and what she mentioned, and I said something at the last meeting, that, I'd rather pave our roads because it's just gonna cost us more to repair them because we can't afford to repave them. So that was $650,000 that they allotted just for this year, which wasn't gonna repave all the roads in the city. That's just a start. So this potential 500,000 easy, maybe up to $1 million, I'd rather the commission give direction to put that into paving those roads.
So maybe that's an idea, kind of pulling on what John Botero was saying, that if we, as a commission, specify the things of the projects and in the order that we intend to. So we endeavor to fund this project, this set aside fund, but call our shots, right? First thing up when we can do it is roads. Next thing up is fire station, next thing up. And that can be an amendable and living list, but don't leave it nebulous as to what we intend to do with these funds. As we build that, start pushing in that direction. And when we hit we've saved up for it, we've met our limit, execute it. And it could be repave the roads, those kind of large chunks.
Repaving the roads is costing us money now because we didn't do it.
Yeah, right, that's what I'm saying. And so starting to have money to get after that instead of continuing to kick the can like we've been doing.
If we had this fund, we wouldn't be arguing about this now. Do you understand what I'm saying?
But I mean, that's what the 5-year plan is. They plan what these capital projects, and then we can change it if we want. They ask our approval for it. We already do that. So
let's put the money aside and we can vote on
So
what we
the
want to
whole
use
point
it
of
on
this
later.
project was that we get to set this aside, endeavor to prioritize these things. So
Okay.
This
so
is in the
what you
spirit
could
of
do,
what this
let's say
idea is.
this makes it through
Yeah.
as an ordinance, okay? What Carolyn's saying is, when we do our capital improvement plan, we can put a line item in there to hold the money that we're talking about here.
I think that's a
Okay.
good, I think
If you want
calling
to
that out
use
is
it
a
for
good
capital
thing.
projects as far as building a road or whatever.
No,
we
capital improvement plan includes like a new fire station.
Right.
So let's just leave it at that for now.
And you were saying we can call that list out in the budget.
We put this ordinance together saying we endeavor.
Yeah.
Okay? And then to actually say we did something with it, when we do the capital improvement plan, we put, okay, 5 years from now, we're gonna design that, well, hopefully before then, but we'll see how it goes. You're gonna do the planning and design PD&E for the fire station. And then, so you need to set aside money to pay for that. And then the next year for construction, so you need to set aside money to pay for that. And that would be the endeavor to make this happen.
Yeah, and we see the funding
And you
growing
could put a
here.
line item
We could
in there
put
for
those.
that.
I don't care if you guys want to designate it specifically for that fire station or not. I just want something set aside so that we're not doing this again. I don't want to see going forward, as long as I'm in here, I don't want to see the deficit go up. I want to see it go down. We owe $40 million. I don't want to ever see it go above 40 million if we don't have to. That's.
Okay, we call this meeting.
All right. So do you have a semi-clear, we in 500,000 this year, and we endeavor to do another 3% a year?
That's what it says now.
Yeah.
If you want changes, I really need to know what you want me to change.
So 3%, you guys better with that than the million?
3%, I can change that.
Okay,
easily.
we'll change it to 3%.
Okay.
And to be used on capital projects that we vote on.
But the allocation is
Maintain
line
running
items
list.
in the capital budget.
Yeah,
That's
whatever.
where it gets allocated. That's what
And
we
then
want.
maybe-
We'll have this time
That's where you
specific.
have to do it.
Yeah.
Maybe those things can be put in a resolution. It could be a living resolution. You could, amend it whenever you wanted to.
We'll talk
Sure.
about that later.
Okay, good.
I'd like to see that.
As long as we are being responsible with the citizens' money, that's all I care about. All right, any general public comment?
It wasn't just.
No, we kind of closed this already. But if you have any other general public comments that we didn't discuss, okay. Meeting's adjourned. Thank you.
Nice job.